Just to clarify, you said that Ryder's going to hire a chief diversity officer at the end of the month. Is that going to be you? Did you say that was going to be you, or are they going to hire somebody else?
No. I'm on the committee.
Right.
Of that committee, we had to come up with a description or a job description.
Mm-hmm.
We had to come up with responsibilities for the chief diversity officer. If it was just going to be one person that was going to head up everything at the university, if he was going to have maybe one or two or three people underneath of him. So we've spent since this back in June. We spent from June until now really meeting. And as we have a couple different, we have students, we have academic people on this committee. We have myself representing athletics. We've got a number of different folks on this committee that are chairing this, that are really putting this together and trying to figure out and what it should be, what that job should look like when they do finally decide to hire that person in that position. So I was on that committee, which was an honor for me because again, this is a big step when people hire chief diversity officers on campus. That person is going to be in charge of a lot in terms of, retention, making sure that there's the right amount of representation for all ethnic groups, making sure that there's promotional opportunities throughout the campus for minorities. And again, there's so many different things that go under that. This person will serve in the president's cabinet, which is huge because at times, fellows, they might report to the provost, they might report to human resources, but this particular person is going to be in the president's cabinet, which is another kudos to President DeLomo as well.
Mm-hmm. Something that is on the tip of my tongue right now, so before I forget it, when we do return to sports, the national anthem is going to be played. Do you expect your players to kneel for the national anthem? And if so, do you support them in their decision to do so?
Yes. So here's a lot of that. That's a great question. And so when you guys were asking me about being part of what I talked to the MAC about when we're heading on the men's side, it all prompt from the fact that the 4 black coaches got together and we really wanted to try and figure out what it is that we could do, what it is that we could stand for with our athletes, which really prompted this whole thing. And then, like I said, Don Dargenio, the athletic director from Siena, was the person that really, really had these conversations with myself and the other black coaches. And so our whole thing, which was important, was the fact that, one, was our league committed to doing this? Because there's going to be a backlash to it. Everybody's not going to be happy about the fact that our guys or girls that might take a knee or whatever it might be that they want to do during the national anthem. And the serious question is, when it comes time for donors, those donors that make donations to our programs, if they feel like, you know what, I don't want to make a donation because I'm not happy with the fact that this athlete or that athlete or this school or that school took a stance and kneeled. This was the video. If you guys ever get a chance, Google the Colin Kaepernick video. He ended up there was a military army man that actually reached out to Kaepernick because in the beginning, fellas, Kaepernick was sitting down during the national anthem. So the army man actually went to him and said, listen, if you want to do something, then take a knee because more often than not, the military, they take a knee for a fallen, soldier. And so that's the reason why he got to kneel. And most people don't even know that. And that's why Colin Kaepernick kneeled. But the bigger fact is the fact that people didn't even understand what he was talking about at that time. It wasn't about the flag. It was about what was going on in society, the injustice which was happening with the police brutality. And here we are now to this day where the NFL now, you see what happened. You saw what's happening with the NBA, but the NFL now, you hear a lot of NFL players saying they're going to kneel and support it. and the NFL had to come back and apologize to Kaepernick. So my point is this, that there's still going to be some people that don't and aren't educated enough to understand that it's not about the flag.
Mm.
It's about taking a knee for unity, for what's going on in society right now, to take a stance and say enough is enough. I will support our players. If we haven't had those discussions yet because we just got back to school and they just got back on campus.
Right.
But I want to give our players they have a platform. I want them to be able to have the platform, to be able to share their platforms, to be able to express their platforms to maybe where they can educate and help others. And so if they decide to kneel, and I had asked the MAC and ADs if all of our universities are going to be ready, because again, as I said, everybody's not going to be happy. But if we do a good job promoting it as we're doing and getting it out there in front and educating people to what it is or why it is that some of our athletes are going to take a knee or do whatever it is that they're going to do to support what's going on, the movement that's going on, then yes, to your question, I will support it. I don't know where I stand at this point, but again, my actions are more than just taking a knee and doing something that somebody else might have already done at this point.
Yeah. So you expect them to at least show some sort of demonstration when the anthem is played? I
do. Yeah. Some of them anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all, but like some of them will.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I definitely could see some players, taking a knee or doing something.
And not just basketball. I mean, I think there are going to be other baseball. I mean, swimming, soccer. I think everybody's impacted by this. So I don't want everybody to think, is this a basketball thing?
Mm.
You watched soccer this summer. Those guys and girls took a knee. You saw what baseball guys ended up protesting and not playing in a couple of games. So there are just different ways that people are taking a stance in this whole thing. So it's not just about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And do you? I talked to Commissioner Ensor not too long ago, and he said it's important that his players, for their mental health, even that they have this platform that they could use. Do you believe the MAC is doing a good enough job to allow players to vocalize their expectations and allow these conversations to be had?
I do. I really do. I think Rich Inger has said he doesn't want to stand in anyone's way. He's supporting everything. He also put it back on the presidents and the ADs of the universities, what they would be willing to do as well. But as far as the MAC is concerned, I 100% believe that he's in support of everything that's going on and will go on. And then I just think it becomes an institutional thing. But I do believe that President DeLomo and having had a lot more discussions with Don Harnum, I do believe that they're in support of everything. And so I'm just appreciative of it for them to allow all of our athletes to be able to have a platform and to be able to use it. I mean, that's important. I mean, people have dealt with these type of tragedies in their own lives. And so why not support them on it?
Mm-hmm. Shaun, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, my bad. I thought the look on your face, I thought you had something in your mind. But going back to kind of what we were talking about before, like you said, this has been going on for 400 years. But when you see rioting and looting in the streets, what are your thoughts? And also as, like, I guess a father figure to players and a father yourself, what kind of lessons are you trying to portray?
Well, I want to make sure that we protest in a way, as Martin Luther King said, protest the right way. And I think, but you have to understand, we black people have tried to do it. And first of all, it wasn't the black people that were doing it. It was people that were coming into these different riots that were doing all the looting. And so I don't support that. I support the approach to where they do it in a manner that it's we're not burning down buildings and the way that things were going on. I don't support that part of it. But I do support the protesting, though. I mean, I think that's important. I think it was important that we showed solidarity, that white people stood with us. There were a lot of white people that stood in front of us. There was on one of our Zoom calls with Ryder, and I wish I knew the professor that said it. He actually said This was a professor writer, and I thought it was so impactful. He actually said, hey, the next time a white person asked you what it is that they could do to support you, he said, why don't you get out in front of a black person? You know, if you really think about when black people have done riots and they get in front of a police officer, we've been pepper sprayed and we've been beaten and hit by billy clubs and bitten by dogs. He said, why don't you get in front of that black person? Why don't the next time, why don't you do that to show solidarity? And I thought that was so impactful, fellas, that stuck with me. And I can't remember which professor it was, because I remember it was a night where it rained really bad. We had bad winds. If you guys remember, it was a power outage in a lot of the areas. So I was struggling at times to get my Wi-Fi to work. But I thought that stuck with me a great deal. And so, again, my point is just to protest in peace, but not to burn down and not to do the looting and breaking in to the different buildings and stealing things. And Lord, I thought that got out of hand. But I want people to understand it. More often than not, it was not the black people that was doing it.
Do you think that the rioting and the looting takes away from the message that Black Lives Matter is trying to convey?
I do, because people want to then say, well, look at them now. Black people look, this is why things happen. So yes, it does take away, because I think it's the narrative that people constantly change. It was the narrative that was changed when Colin Kaepernick was trying to express why it is he was taking a knee and no one really listened to it. Mm-hmm. And so I just think the different media outlets, depending upon which media outlets we're talking about, will change the narrative. And so that's why I'm always leery when it comes time to tell guys and girls to protest. But when they do it, just make sure you go out there and you do it the right way.
Right.
And that to me, you hope would make the impact that needs to be done. But again, fellas, we've done all of that for over time, and look where we still are. Mm-hmm. Still getting 7 shots to the back, still the Breonna Taylors. You know, you're still watching George Floyd get, his neck melt on. So what do you do? How do you change this? How do you change the narrative? How do you change what's going on? And I know they're talking about defunding the police and things. I don't agree with that as well, but I do think we need to educate the police. I do think we need to change our police system. I do think we need more black police officers. I do think people need to want to still continue to be police officers, because there are a lot of good police and we still need the police. And so I just think, again, the biggest thing that needs to be done is the educational part. Educate white people, educate our black people, that are young people and black folks that don't understand. Educate. The more we can educate, the more we can communicate and talk. And the more that we can listen and not just talk at people, but that we listen, and that we still won't agree on everything, but to understand that, there's common ground for us both. And that to me is always going to be equality.
Right. I was going to ask, you have 2 white college kids who have not experienced anything near close at all to what a black student in our position has experienced. What can Shaun and myself do to, I guess, just further this message and be, I guess, a better ally than what people are already doing?
I would tell you that first and foremost, if you've ever felt like you had a social bias, like I tell people, there are times when I might have walked up alongside of a white person or a white woman that had her bag, and next thing you know, she's clutching her bag as if like I was going to steal her bag. If you ever had any of these social biases, that you talk to somebody, that I just think it's the educational part. Talk to black people, reach out to us. We're more than willing to talk to you about our walk, but I think I think white people need to educate themselves. I think that they need to have conversations with us, read about our black history. there's so many things that we all can get better at it when it comes to understanding where we've come from.
Mm.
I think that's important. I think that, when you guys were going to school, when we were going to school, when you were reading your history books, what were you reading more often than not? You were reading about white people, right? You weren't reading about Black history. There was not much literature about our history, and I think it should be a balance of it both. And so, but at the end of the day, if you ask me what it is that you guys can do, just go and talk to some folks, listen to some Black people, hear them, and educate yourselves on it, and stand with us. I think that's important. If you see a guy with his neck being stepped on or kneeled on for that long, and you don't say anything, then to me that's condoning it. Take a stand with us and understand that. What would that be like if somebody was kneeling on one of you all's family members' neck for that long? That doesn't matter. The color is it's wrong. And these situations have gone on much too long, way too long, that we can't be silent anymore. No one. We have to condone. We not saying anything condones it. So speak out against it and help speak with us and stand with us if you're really asking what it is that you can do.